Historic, moving, and world-altering. Those are just some of the many things the fall of the Berlin Wall signifies for countless individuals worldwide. From the end of World War II to the Cold War, the Berlin Wall has a rich history that had the power to make a lasting impact on not just Europe, but the entire globe. The Berlin Wall is still a powerful symbol of the Cold War. Its fall promoted hope, freedom, and unity. It had a significant impact on European unity and drastically altered world politics. Despite technically being a German matter, the fall of the Berlin Wall had an impact on the continent as a whole, promoting harmony and collaboration. With its impact still influencing Europe today, this event serves as a testament to human perseverance and the unwavering pursuit of freedom. The fall was only the start of major social and political transformations in Eastern Europe, which are still in progress to this day. With many obstacles in its path, the collapse began a sequence of transformations that are gradually welcoming open, democratic societies in nations such as Moldova, Mongolia, Estonia, and Albania. While bringing Germany back together and enlarging the European Union were significant accomplishments, they paled in comparison to the difficult work of creating the new institutions, skills, and political will required for a lasting transformation. After the initial excitement of the barrier being broken, the road to more liberal political and economic systems has unsurprisingly been rocky. According to his interview with Tufts Now, David Art, a professor of political science, found that the fall of the wall had an enormous impact on all of Europe. He stated that Chancellor of West Germany, Helmut Kohl, backed the establishment of a single currency right once following reunification in order to reassure other European nations, particularly France, that Germany would continue to work toward a closer European Union despite its growing strength. The enlargement of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, or NATO, was another significant result. As the USSR faced economic and political challenges, it lost in diplomatic negotiations, leading to NATO's expansion into East Germany and later into most former Warsaw Pact nations. Russia's conflicts in Georgia in 2008 and ongoing issues in Ukraine since 2014 trace back to security concerns originating from the wall's collapse. In Germany itself, opinions on the wall's fall vary. Some see it as a historic moment when Germans overthrew an authoritarian regime. Others view it as the beginning of West Germany's dominance over the East. However, most Germans agree that the wall's collapse brought both euphoric experiences and challenging legacies, making its memory complex and multifaceted. According to a 2009 Pew Foundation survey, perceptions toward democratic freedom in Central and Eastern Europe have changed throughout the past 20 years since the fall. Although many citizens of the former Soviet Union and Central European nations value free markets and multi-party systems, their support for these developments has declined in the majority of the nations polled. This is particularly true in the former Soviet Union's Russia, Ukraine, and other regions, where a longer communist history has made the advancement of democracy more difficult. As many former Soviet republics have roughly transitioned to democracy, the ideals raised by the fall of the Berlin Wall have been called into question. Liberalization may be complex, as demonstrated by the dual task of transitioning from institutions designed for command economy and one-party rule to both economic and political freedom. The Berlin Wall's collapse changed European and global politics deeply. It ended the Cold War and marked a new beginning. This event also became a worldwide symbol of freedom and democracy, inspiring political movements globally, even to this day. The wall's legacy still influences international relations, reminding us of strength and togetherness. It also led to the reunification of Berlin and inspired dreams of greater European integration, eventually contributing to the creation of the European Union. It showed that divisions could be overcome, and a united Europe could be built on shared values of democracy, human rights, and a market economy. The fall also emphasized how working together regionally can be beneficial when facing political and economic challenges as one united front. In the years after its collapse, the European community transformed into the European Union, which was structured to bring member countries closer politically and economically. The Maastricht Treaty, signed in 1992, set the stage for forming the EU and established shared policies on foreign affairs, security, and justice. This treaty showed the vision of a united Europe capable of acting together on the world stage. And it's not just political transformations. Over 30 years ago, The fall of the Berlin Wall brought significant social and economic changes to East Germany. People on both sides of the former barrier believe that the transformations since 1989 have generally improved living standards in their country, as shown by a 2019 survey from the Pew Research Center. However, the former East and West Germany are still not economically equal. According to an annual German government report on the status of German unity, despite considerable progress in recent decades, the former East Germany continues to lag behind the former West Germany in key economic areas. Take unemployment, for instance. According to their findings rooted on data from the German government's 2019 report, coupled with their recent survey, the Pew Research Center found that, when compared to the former West, the unemployment rate is still greater in the former East Germany. In 2018, the 10 Western states had an average unemployment rate of 4.8%, while the 6 Eastern states had an average unemployment rate of 6.9%. Numerous demographics are impacted by these variations in unemployment rates, including young people and senior citizens. For example, in 2018, the unemployment rate for those between the ages of 15 and 24 was 4.1% in the former West and 7.7% in the former East. Similarly, 7.5% of East Germans aged 55 to 64 were unemployed, compared to 5.3% in the West. Despite these differences, the former East has made significant efforts to close the gap with the former West in recent decades. To compare, the difference between the East and West's unemployment rates in the early 2000s was around 5 times greater than it was in 2018. The difference was roughly 10 percentage points higher in the East. Additionally, people in both former East and West Germany agree that living standards in the East have not yet matched those in the West. According to the same survey by the Pew Research Center, about 74% of people in the former East and 66% in the former West believe the East still lags behind. This survey included representative samples of adults from both regions as part of a broader European study. Also, those in the former East Germany are generally less optimistic than their Western counterparts about various issues, including the financial future of today's children. In the East, 42% of adults believe the next generation will be better off financially, compared to 50% in the West who think the same. The fall of the Berlin Wall shows us that barriers can be broken and unity can prevail. It teaches us that even the most challenging differences can be resolved with communication, empathy, and a common goal for a brighter tomorrow. As its impact on the political and economic stage of the globe remains to this day, let us explore its immediate effects on the country and the entire continent back then, and what it meant for the rest of the world. Global ideologies were significantly impacted by the fall of the Berlin Wall, which marked the end of the Cold War. The rise of forces supporting democracy and free markets in tandem with the fall of the Soviet Union demonstrated the lasting importance of liberal principles. The European center-right grew as a result of the fall of the Iron Curtain, but it was also forced to reevaluate its ideological foundations and cohesiveness. Both left and center-right policymakers took more practical approaches, making it harder for the public to distinguish between them. This shift reduced public interest in political engagement, leading to a trend of politics becoming less politically charged. The fall of the wall brought major changes from both an economic and social standpoint. While achieving national unity was a milestone, it was quickly followed by challenges. These included structural issues in Europe's economy, as well as the costs and impacts of reunification itself. Like much of Europe, Germany in the 1990s dealt with tougher global competition, rising expenses of its extensive social welfare system, and persistent unemployment, especially in its traditional industries. On top of these, the reunification of East and West Germany brought unexpected financial burdens that were unsettling. Chancellor Helmut Kohl and his team had not adequately prepared German taxpayers for these costs, partly due to concerns about political fallout, and partly because they underestimated the scale of the task. Economically, the disparity between East and West posed a significant challenge post-reunification, and this issue remains relevant today as mentioned in the previous chapter. For reunification to succeed, it was crucial to reconcile and heal the wounds caused by division. Tackling the psychological and emotional toll that the wall had on people, as well as families, was part of this. There was an attempt to foster communication, empathy, and understanding amongst those on both sides. Community efforts, educational initiatives, and cultural exchanges were important in mending Berlin's society. With its rich and diverse culture, the city now flourishes, embracing both harmony and variety. The European Union's growing integration and Germany's reunification spurred a cross-border revival of culture. Europe had a thriving flow of ideas, literature, music, and art after the fall of the Wall. Berlin became a global center of culture, attracting great minds, musicians, and artists from all over the world. Stronger respect for diversity and the blending of Eastern and Western European customs was fostered by this cultural exchange. By breaking down physical and ideological barriers, it allowed a more dynamic exchange of cultural practices and innovations. The fall of the Berlin Wall's impact goes beyond its borders. Yes, it helped shape the stage for politics worldwide, but it is also a powerful symbol of freedom and human rights. Its collapse showed how the human spirit can conquer oppression and the universal longing for freedom. This moment in history has sparked movements and revolutions across the globe, offering hope to those facing oppression. It emphasizes the value of cooperation, nonviolent protest, and the ongoing fight for fairness and justice. Efforts to address new political, racial, and economic divides and injustices are still motivated by the legacy of the fall of the Wall. As we explored the many ways the collapse of the Berlin Wall has greatly made an impact on not only Germany, but the entire globe, we can start to dive deep into the question, why was it built in the first place, and how did it fall? After World War II ended, Germany was divided into 4 occupation zones controlled by the United States, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union. Berlin, though situated in the Soviet zone, was also split among these 4 powers. The Soviet sector became East Berlin, and the areas ruled by the Americans, British, and French became West Berlin. This division and occupation were agreed upon by Allied leaders at the Potsdam Conference. Germany officially broke up into the Federal Republic of Germany, or West Germany, which was allied with the West, and the German Democratic Republic, or East Germany, which was allied with the Soviet Union in 1949. In 1952, the East German government sealed the border with West Germany, but the border between East and West Berlin remained open. East Germans could still flee through the city to the more prosperous West, which was less restrictive. Between 1949 and 1961, approximately 2.5 million East Germans had fled to West Germany, including a growing number of skilled workers, professionals, and intellectuals. Their departure posed a serious economic threat to East Germany. In response, East Germany constructed a barrier to block East Germans from reaching West Berlin and West Germany. This barrier will soon rise as the Berlin Wall, and it was hastily erected overnight on August 12 to 13, 1961. Initially made of barbed wire and cinder blocks, the wall was later replaced with concrete walls topped with barbed wire, then with added security, guarded by watchtowers and mines. By the middle of the 1970s, the wall had come to represent severe oppression. To make room for moats, security zones, bright lights, alarms, guard towers, and dog patrols, entire neighborhoods and buildings were demolished. When the wall was taken down, it was an extremely complex, nearly impenetrable construction of steel and concrete, supported by an intricate system and defended by a specialized unit of the East German Army. Although it was known as the anti-fascist protective barrier in East Germany, the outside world saw it as a symbol of the German Democratic Republic's oppressive rule and lack of legitimacy. And by the 1980s, this fortified system extended 28 miles through Berlin, dividing the city, and stretched another 75 miles around West Berlin, separating it from the rest of East Germany. Standing tall and firm, the Berlin Wall became a powerful symbol of the Cold War's division between East and West Germany and Eastern and Western Europe. The construction of the Berlin Wall effectively paused the flow of refugees from east to west and eased the crisis over Berlin. But this did not stop brave individuals from crossing to the other side by any means necessary. Throughout the years, over 100 people lost their lives attempting to cross the Berlin Wall. Despite the risks, many still tried to escape from East Germany, making what seemed to be impossible possible. Thousands of East Germans were able to successfully cross the border between 1961 and 1989. They did stunts such as fly in hot air balloons, creep through sewers, climb over barbed wire, jump from windows near to the wall, and drive through unsecured areas of the wall. While a great number of these attempts were successful, an equally large number of people were also apprehended by East German police during their efforts to do so. As a great number of people valiantly attempted to make it to the other side, it wasn't until 28 years later that the dream of crossing the wall without any restrictions would become a reality. In October 1989, the communist leaders of East Germany were removed from power as democracy movements spread across Eastern Europe. Then it was on November 9, 1989, that the Berlin Wall fell, following a mass protest in East Berlin just 5 days earlier. But if you think the collapse was orderly and peaceful, then you might want to think again. East German leaders had attempted to ease mounting tensions by relaxing travel restrictions for East Germans, but they did not intend to fully open the border. On that momentous day, a spokesman for the East German Communist Party announced new policies on border crossings, stating they would take effect immediately. However, he did not clarify that some rules would still apply, and certain regulations were to be followed. To add to that, Western media mistakenly reported that the border was wide open, prompting crowds to gather at checkpoints on both sides of the wall. Eventually, passport checks were abandoned, allowing people to cross freely. East Berliners converged at border points, demanding and shouting to open the gate. Soon, the crowds were allowed to pass through by the security personnel, and people from the West greeted them with champagne and flowers. Thousands marched through, crying and celebrating in shots that were televised across the world. Many were desperate, so they climbed the Berlin Wall at the Brandenburg Gate, chipping away at it with pickaxes and hammers. That following weekend, over 2 million people from East Berlin traveled to West Berlin to take part in the celebrations. While large sections of the wall were removed by cranes and bulldozers, people came together to break down smaller sections of the wall. Through the efforts of many, it soon fell, bringing Berlin together for the first time since 1945. Almost a year after the fall of the Berlin Wall, on October 3, 1990, East and West Germany were formally reunited. From social to economic, political, and cultural, the impact of the Berlin Wall's collapse spreads like wildfire beyond Germany's borders. Whether it's a symbol of bravery and people power or reshaping geopolitical landscapes, in its entirety, it has the power to bring people together and change the world. Thank you for watching.